Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of Encompass Live. I am your host, Krista Burns, here at the Nebraska Library Commission. Encompass Live is the Commission's weekly online event where we cover any topics that may be of interest to librarians across the state. We do these sessions every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, and they are recorded so that you can watch any of the archive sessions that we have if you are not able to join us on Wednesday mornings. We have about over now 2 years worth of archive sessions available. We have a link here right on our main website for the archived Encompass Live sessions, so you can go through this and see all the previous sessions we have done and watch recordings, see the PowerPoint presentations, any URLs, websites that were used during the sessions. Today we have a guest speaker who is remoted into us, and I will unmute her so we can talk. Sara Churchill, who is from, hi Sara,
Hello.
from Blair Community Schools up north of us here. And she is our guest speaker this morning, going to talk about iPad apps for use in schools and libraries. So I am going to give control over to Sara to do her presentation. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. This is a topic that I've had a lot of fun with in the last year, so it's been a fun time. Used both in schools and libraries. So let me go ahead and show my screen here.
Yep. Okay.
And I will go ahead. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Excellent. Okay, I'll go ahead and get started then. And as Krista said, at any point in time, if you want to ask a question, feel free to jump on in there and ask questions. Let's start with who I am and what I do. I am Sara Churchill from Blair Community Schools. I am the school librarian and technologist, and that's my own little made-up word there, for my school. It is an intermediate school. It's grades 4th and 5th grade. We used to have 3rd grade, but they moved out of our building when we got too big, and I kind of miss my 3rd graders. Blair is about 25 minutes north of Omaha. If you're not familiar, I actually live in Omaha and drive to Blair, so I get both the big city and small town experience. I am also an adjunct instructor for UNO in the Library Science Department in the College of Education. I teach a technology class for librarians and teachers. Our sections are now just librarians because we've gotten so big. But I get a chance to try out a lot of new technology, share what I've learned about technology with new librarians. Some of them are not so new. Some of them have been in libraries for a while, but it's a whole lot of fun, and I get to meet a lot of people. UNO takes very good care of me. Dr. Becky Pasco does a very good job of making sure we have what we need technology-wise, and it is due to her that I got my first iPad last summer, and the goal was primarily to explore how the iPad and apps can be used in libraries and schools. Although it has certainly been of use to me here at school in Blair, I've worked with some students, particularly some special needs students who fall on the autism spectrum disorder. And I have a 5-year-old who's starting kindergarten next fall, and he has certainly got a lot of use out of my iPad as well. So it's been a very great tool for us. I do have a website, and I'm going to go ahead and bring that up right now. It is careproject.wikispaces.com. And let me get the webinar stuff out of the way here. You can check out everything that I'm talking about today on that wiki. It does have some information about me and also my colleagues that I have worked with on this presentation. This presentation has taken on a variety of incarnations. I presented to parents here in our district. I've presented to librarians and librarians in training. And last month, one of my colleagues and I presented at NETA, the Nebraska Educational Technology Association Conference, on using iPads with special needs students. So you'll find that the website does not just have library-related items on there. It has all kinds of education, personal parental information on there. But everything I'm referring to today you can find on this website. And let me just go back here.
And just so
again, that
everybody knows, I just want to say we will have that link to that website when we post up the recording later too.
Perfect. Perfect. And there's the website address again if you want to write it down. It's careproject.wikispaces.com. So the big question to start off with is why apps? Why are apps so important? Why are people drawn to apps so much right now?
Sarah,
if you
hold on a second. Your screen has just gone black for some reason instead of showing your PowerPoint now.
Okay. Well, we could just do it this way. We can just do it that way. That'll work.
Huh. It worked when you did it the first time. I'm not sure what it did that time. Try it again and let's see. Yeah. Oh, how bizarre.
Can you see it or not?
No, now it's just making you speed out just black, a black screen.
Okay.
Huh. But when you're just,
we'll
in
do
it
it
this
that way.
Yeah, there we can see it.
Okay.
That's okay. We'll do it that way for now. I'm not sure what it's doing.
Okay. And, you know, the PowerPoint is really just so you guys have something to look at besides just listening to me. So it's not necessarily driving the presentation here. If you've heard for the last several years, you know, we've been focused a lot on Web 2.0. And you've probably heard a lot about Web 2.0 applications and that sort of thing. Well, we're actually really in the middle of Web 3.0 right now. And Web 3.0 was all about taking everything that we had created with Web 2.0 and then making it personal and mobile. And that's really the drive for people right now, is they want to be able to take their own stuff with them wherever they go. And in addition to that, they also want it interactive. They want it media rich, meaning that they can have pictures and videos and music. And they want to be able to have a social component. We all know how popular Facebook is and all those other social networking sites. So they want to be able to see what their friends are doing and see what their colleagues are doing and sharing. And again, they want to do it on their own device and do it wherever and whenever they want. Apps are allowing us to do that, whether it's on an Android device or an iOS device. These kinds of apps allow people to access the information that they want to access wherever they want to access it. People want so much more than just being able to pull up a website. I've kind of been giving some of our library vendors a hard time about, you know, them needing to get on board and get apps for their systems. And I had pulled up my library catalog on my phone, and one of the vendors looked at me and said, well, there you go. There's your app right there. You've got it right there on your phone. And I said, no, this isn't. I've got to pinch and zoom, and I've got to try and get my finger on just the right area. And it's not an easy way to interact. People want to be able to interact easily. They want to be able to pull up their accounts. They want to be able to play music and access multimedia information. They don't just want to pull up a website anymore. And so apps are allowing developers to customize the experience for the user. EDUCAUSE is a great organization, and they put out a lot of information regarding technology and how it impacts education. And they have a whole series called 7 Things You Should Know About. And they take one particular application technology, and they discuss how it impacts education, how it's being used, and that kind of thing. And back in March, they put out one on iPad apps. And they had an excellent quotation in there that I thought really hits the idea of why apps are so popular. They said that applications that live in the spaces where education and entertainment overlap can capture the imagination, enticing students to learn on their own. And I think that's so true for all of us, whether we're a kindergarten student or whether we're a 70-year-old looking to find out more about history. We want to be entertained, we want our imagination to be captured, and we want to be independent learners. And apps are, again, allowing people to do that in a personal and mobile way. So apps are getting more and more and more prevalent in our culture. I know I said this would focus on primarily iPad and iPod apps and iPhone apps. We do have other apps out there, though. We have the whole Android market, which is developed by Google. And normally I like to say that I have sold my soul to Google with everything that I use from Google. But this is one case where I haven't. I'm thoroughly committed to Apple here. I think between Apple and Google, I'm a minority shareholder in my own soul. But the iOS devices simply have more apps. You know, there's the iPod and the iPhone and the iPad are the primary touch devices out there. You do have some devices like Droid phones and those kinds of things, and the Zoom tablet, and then there are several more tablets coming out that are driven by Android. But the iPod and iPhone and iPad have just held the market for longer, and they were the forefront of this whole movement. So number one, they've been around longer. So they have a lot more apps that way. You also have a much higher quality of apps from Apple. Android's market is open, so anybody can submit apps to their market. So sometimes you have to be careful with the apps that you are getting because they are not vetted like Apple would vet their apps. So the quantity and quality of apps is just so much better on the iOS right now, and that may change in the future, but for right now, that's why I have a tendency to focus on the iOS devices. If you look at my website, you'll see that I do have a column for if it's available in iOS and if it's available in Android, and by far, I would say probably 98% of what's on that website is not available on the Android market. So we have a clear leader there. On the website, I do have lots of tips, especially for parents. I have found that, you know, a lot of parents are still new to the device market and trying to figure out how they can do this. So I do have some tips there for parents in terms of parental control and that sort of thing. Apple is not maybe as there as we want them to be in terms of controls, whether it's implementing it from a library perspective or a school perspective or even a parent perspective. I was at a workshop with Apple reps and was told that it's supposed to be a personal device, so there shouldn't be any reason to limit apps. You know, we were talking about it didn't seem too hard to develop a drop-down menu where you could say, don't allow access to this app and this app and this app right now. And their point is that everybody in the household should have an iOS device, so you shouldn't have to change the settings. But we know we're not there, and I think that's an area where Apple will grow. Certainly, they've been working on their volume purchase program, particularly for schools, but that can also apply to libraries. And so I think they're aware that these devices are going to start to become a little more multi-user than maybe they intended at the beginning. Android, I'm not as familiar with them, so I don't know. I know they have some parental control apps available, but I don't know exactly how well you can lock down their devices if you're loaning them out to people or working with younger children. For educators and libraries, I would highly suggest looking to the web to try and find programs that are doing what you are attempting to do. You know, we're still very new in this stage of implementing these devices, and so there's a lot of people blogging out there about how their process is going. There are schools that are launching entire carts of iPads in their schools. Kearney is one that has a cart of iPads that they are sharing among the English department. So look around and try and find programs that are doing what you're doing. I haven't heard of too many libraries yet actually loaning out iPads. I think the risk for the cost is not probably balanced enough at this point. One tip off of my tip page that I do want to point out is that, you know, it's hard to preview apps. They don't give you necessarily preview time. You could download a free version of the app sometimes, but that doesn't always give you a really great idea of what the app can do. So check YouTube. I have found that a lot of developers are putting up videos of their apps on YouTube to show exactly what they do before you purchase them. So I highly recommend doing that. Finding apps, at first I was incredibly overwhelmed when I started looking for apps. There's a lot of information out there on apps, and to sift through and try and find what's good and what's not can be very difficult and overwhelming. I do have a whole resources page on my site, and particularly on the libraries page, I do have some links down at the bottom with some recommended library sort of focused apps. Here are 3 of my top education-oriented app sites that I follow. I actually RSS these sites and subscribe to the site so I know when they have updates, but a lot of them are also on Twitter and on Facebook, so you can follow them that way too. Best Kids App, Digital Storytime, and Moms with Apps are all wonderful sites that do really good in-depth reviews about apps. Digital Storytime is one of my favorite, and I didn't find this right away, but they almost always have a video that goes with their review. The only thing with them is that she seems to probably love a lot of the apps, so I end up spending more money following the Digital Storytime site than I maybe intend to. The other really great resource is just people. I've heard of so many different apps from colleagues and friends, even on the radio. You know, there's entire segments now on the radio devoted to what apps the DJs have found now. Twitter is a great resource as well. If you follow certain key people on Twitter, you'll hear about good apps. You can also follow hashtags. For example, the #PoundEdApp hashtag usually has a lot of good apps. You'll also hear about promo codes that way, so you can get things for free. Also, following those 3 sites that I mentioned, you can also a lot of times get free promo codes that way as well. So another good reason to follow them. So for apps that I recommend, for personal use, we have a variety of apps. We have ebook apps galore. There's been a lot of discussion about ebook readers, and a lot of people ask me which one do I recommend. Well, I recommend the iPad, which isn't necessarily the answer they want to hear because they don't always want to spend the $500 for it. But since I have the iPad, I can put on the Kindle app and the Nook app and the iBooks app and all of those others, Overdrive, etc. I can put all of those on my iPad, and I can have access to all of those different stores on my iPad. In fact, the Kindle app I particularly like because I can put it on my iPad, I can put it on my iPod, and I can put it on my phone. And so I can pull up my book that I'm reading through the Kindle app just about anywhere, anytime I want, and have access to it. Plus, with the iPad, you get to do so much more on top of the ebook readers. So if you're looking at making an investment, I always recommend, if they can, to do the iPad over a Kindle or a Nook. Skype, very popular. We don't know what's going to happen with Skype now that Microsoft has purchased it, but it seems like they're going to support it for all platforms so far. It's wonderful for one thing that I've seen a lot of people using it for is kids going away to college, and they have purchased some sort of iPod for their child, and now their child can be away at college, and if they have internet access and you have internet access, you can talk to them and even video chat with them long distance for free. And they can be doing it from their bed in their dorm room. They don't have to go anywhere special or have any special equipment. Skype is also a great instant messenger if you're not aware of that. It can be a great way to keep in contact with people that you are maybe colleagues with, and you just want to shoot a quick message. Hey, are you, at your office so I can run by there later? Something like that. Skype can be a great instant messenger as well. Netflix is one of those things where, I know there's a lot of debate going on. I have seen teachers using it in schools. I've heard of libraries circulating Netflix movies. But it is, certainly a very popular app. I think last week they just announced that Netflix was one of the primary, it held the biggest market share of network traffic for the last quarter or something like that. So Netflix is huge, and it does allow you to watch lots of different movies, whether it's educational or whether it's pure entertainment on your device. Another good thing about Netflix is that if you are not aware, the iPad does have some Flash issues. Flash, Adobe, and Apple do not get along very well. And there are still issues running Flash on the iPad, which is at times sort of frustrating. So it's really nice that I can pull up Netflix and pull up whatever I need to watch that I want to stream on my iPad when maybe I can't get it on a website or something like that because of the Flash issues. Dropbox?
That is a very nice workaround there, yeah.
Yes, it is. It's a great workaround. I hope we get more stuff that I can watch on there instead of less, but we'll get there. Dropbox is a great storage device, sharing device. If you're not familiar with that, it's free. And you can sync Dropbox with your computer. You can sync Dropbox with your iPad. Kearney had a really great use for Dropbox. They had students typing papers and submitting them and sharing them via Dropbox, which was very interesting. They still haven't perfected that system quite yet because they only have one login right now, and so all the students can get to everything else, which is kind of a concern. But it's a great way to share your files. I can do my keynote presentation on my computer, and I can sync it through Dropbox to my iPad and pull it up. It's great storage. And then, of course, presentation software, which we all love to use. Keynote, Prezi, Google. Google is actually probably the behind the pack in this area. Unfortunately, the Google app is really just mobile versions of their website, and it's not very user-friendly yet. And you still have to have Wi-Fi. They don't, as far as I'm aware, I can't figure out a way to work offline and then get it to sync. I've heard that there's a way, but it just doesn't seem as ahead of the pack as some of the other things here, surprisingly enough. And maybe they're saving that for their own devices. I'm not sure, but so you can create your presentations and share them on your device. And with the new iPad 2, they make it so easy to project what's on your iPad up to a screen. It's the way it should have worked from the very beginning, but you can share your presentations and you don't have to drag your whole computer along. So for library use, specifically library focus, I about did a backflip last week when Follett put out that they now have a tidal wave app. We use Follett in our district and use tidal wave extensively, and I'm so excited that I'm going to be able to access my lists using my device. I can actually scan ISBNs straight into Tidal Wave. There are other barcode scanning apps out there, but I found that there's some concerns with privacy with those apps in terms of what information they're collecting about your device. So Tidal Wave will be really great. I can go to Barnes & Noble and find the books on the shelf that I really like, and I can scan them straight into my ordering list for next year. So that's excellent. But you do need to have a camera on your device. You need to have a new iPad or a new iPod or an iPhone to be able to do that. There are lots of libraries out there that are starting to put their card catalogs in app format. There is even a service that you can subscribe to that will help you do that called Boopsy. And Omaha Public Library has used that to put their card catalog online in app format. So I can go ahead and I can pull up the Omaha Public Library on my iPod or iPad. I can check what I have out. I can search their catalog. I can put holds on. I can download ebooks and audiobooks with their electronic resources. And since there's an Overdrive app as well, I can just go right into Overdrive and listen to my audiobooks from my device. There are lots of vendor resources that are starting to become available. Gale and EBSCO are two leaders in this. You're familiar, I'm sure, with their sources, their resources. And again, it's that concept here of we don't want to have to pinch and zoom and scroll, and we want an easy to interact interface. And so EBSCO and Gale have done that. They've created apps that you can download and install, and then if you put in your library information into those apps, you can access whatever resources your library subscribes to. So it's a great way to pull those up. The New York Public Library has two very cool apps right now, and it makes me want to go to New York and get a library card from them just so I can play with the apps. They have one that is called, I lost the name of it, something about the future. And it is a game, and it's a game that you can use to interact with their displays and their collections at the library itself. So it's sort of like a scavenger hunt. You can play on the game a little bit and it gives you clues, and then you can go into the library and you can scan, whether it's a barcode or a QR code, I'm not sure, but you can scan it and enter it into the game saying you've found this device or you found this artifact. So it looks like a really fun way, and I started brainstorming about how could I possibly pull that off in my library, because I think my students would love that if I did some sort of scavenger hunt with their devices. We have to get schools to allow devices probably before we can fully take advantage of that, but certainly public libraries can do that. The New York Public Library also has one of their special collections related to the World's Fair in an app format, and it's a gorgeous app, and you can access their photos and the music and the documents, their archives related to the World's Fair using this app. I'm assuming that you have to have a library card to be able to do that. Again, there are barcode apps out there that you can use to scan barcodes, whether you want to manage your personal library or whether you want to use it in your own library, your public or school academic library, to manage your collection. The only thing is, again, there are some concerns about privacy. Certainly there's your basic barcode scanner apps, and a lot of times those will send the ISBN to either Amazon or to Google Shopping and pull them up for you that way. Amazon will let you maintain them as a list, so that is one way to do that. If you don't have Tidal Wave, if you don't use Tidal Wave, you could use the barcode app to scan it and send it to Amazon and maintain a list on Amazon that way. Educational use, I do have a bias, obviously, as a librarian. If you look on my iPad, there is a huge amount of space devoted to interactive books on my iPad. And although my son loves story time the way it is, occasionally he does want story time off the iPad. So there are a plethora of classics out there. Of course, you're going to get your public domain books available in a variety of formats. But you're also getting some classic stories. One of our newest favorites is There's a Monster at the End of This Book, the Grover Sesame Street story. And it just makes it more interactive. He can touch the page. He can break down the brick wall that Grover is hiding behind. Grover can kind of move around and talk to him in his Grover voice, and he can hear the story that way. Just makes it even more interesting than it was before. Sandra Boynton has the Going to Bed book, which is phenomenal. In some of the shots, if you turn on the hot water, then the mirrors steam up, and you can write in the mirror on the app. Animalia is another app that is phenomenal. Classic story that's been turned into a book that has a lot of games in it as well. Scavenger hunts and riddles and all that kind of stuff. They've taken it and made it even more of an experience than it was before. I do have most of the Dr. Seuss book apps as well. I knew that if I watched very carefully on Read Across America Day on Dr. Seuss's birthday that they would probably be on sale, and they were. So we stocked up then on Green Eggs and Ham and The Cat in the Hat. The Lorax is actually one of my son's favorite stories right now as well. There's a Lorax app that will help you grow truffula trees, so he can plant growing truffula trees as well. There's also a lot of new stories available that are really cool, and I want to show a little bit of this Bartleby's Book of Buttons because I think it really shows how you can, not that reading isn't already a great experience, obviously I believe that, but it takes the reading experience and takes it to a different level. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of this video here, which is actually the Kirkus review, but it's a little bit more condensed than the video from the developer. So hopefully you'll be able to hear it. Hopefully it'll play too. There we go. Oh, you can't hear it, can you?
No, if you put your microphone up to your speakers, we'll be able to hear it through that.
Children's storybook apps for 2010 as awarded by Kirkus Reviews. The first thing you'll notice is a lot of buttons, dials, switches, knobs, cranks. This is not so much a straightforward story narrative as a series of puzzles, of interactive puzzles that kids can play with to get from page to page. Bartleby himself is this sort of retro 1940s style character. If you're familiar with Tintin, it's very similar to that. But it's wholly original. It's not based on anything. It's not some sort of property that they've adapted to the iPad. But this is a completely original story told over 8 pages, and it's only volume 1 of a series. So if you like Bartleby, he'll be going on many other adventures. And each page is really, before you can get to the next page, you have to solve a puzzle, figure out what he needs to wear to get to the next page. The button will light up green when you have the right combination, and his bag. So you solve this and you go to the next page. This is more of a maze. We'll skip ahead to another page. The open sea. So yeah, as you can see, a very high level of interactivity. Very different and unique. You don't see a lot of apps like this in the App Store. Really well done sound effects and animation.
Okay, and what I like about this, and if I can go back without starting it all over again, one of the ones that I like about Bartleby is a lot of times there are actually clues to what you need to do. I know he was just hitting buttons, but there are clues to what you're supposed to do in the text itself. So if you teach the child or the student to actually read the text and read and look for those clues, they'll know what to do. For example, it says Bartleby collects buttons. With his bag, coat, and bowler hat, Bartleby travels the world to find new things. So the student, if they're thinking, the child can think, okay, we need a bag, a coat, and a bowler hat, and hit the buttons to make the right combination. My son has played this and read this book so many times, and we've only had it a couple of weeks. So this is actually a free app right now. They are keeping it free until volume 2 comes out. So I would, which I think it's coming out soon, like in the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested in this app, I would grab it now. So there are a lot of books out there, interactive books. Treasure Kai is one that you can get the app, you can get the book, and you can get this box of special stuff, treasure and whatnot, to go with it. So you can have a very rich experience with the book. There are a lot of creative apps out there available for the iPad. The iPad has been phenomenal for music and drawing and creating. And there are a lot of apps that have brought that out. Just to show another video, this one has to do with one of my students I have worked with here at school. He is on the autism spectrum disorder, and at the beginning of the year we weren't sure how much he was going to be able to communicate with us, but by the end of the year we had some phenomenal things happening. And this just shows you one of my favorite apps called Puppet Pals. Shows you what he could do with it the very first time he picked it up. This video is on my website on the media page. And again, this is the very first time that I put this in his hands. So I don't know if I can make this one bigger from here.
It was her. Now, oh, great. It is a now keep very good. And then it's water. But it's upside down and switching. And then he got.
And what was kind of interesting was to watch Jalen's thought process at this point, because he couldn't get the guy big again. He had made him so small he couldn't get him big again. And so he changed his storyline at that point, and he decided, okay, well, that's the sheriff's superpower, to be able to shrink people. And so the next robber comes along, and he gets really big, and then the sheriff shrinks him down again. And then the third robber comes along and gets really big, and the sheriff shrinks him down. And at the end, he said they all went to small jail. The end. And so it was very interesting to watch the creative process and to hear the verbal skills. Even when I handed it to my son and let him play with that program, the vocabulary he was using really surprised me. He picked the knight and the princess and the castle, and he said, "Thank you, fair knight," and just used terms that I was really surprised that he had in his head that he had learned. There are a lot of other creative apps out there. There's one called Toontastic that my son is enjoyed, and Jalen have enjoyed quite a bit. And the new GarageBand app that has come out now is amazing. And there's some great videos showing this as well. I found this one just this past weekend showing just how amazing it can be playing music on the iPad. I won't subject you to the whole 3 minutes and 21 seconds, although it's a very pretty song. And that was an improvisation. That's one of those apps that I hadn't paid the $4.99 for yet. I hadn't bid off that, but after I saw that video, I thought, oh, I want that. I want GarageBand. I want to be able to play like that. Not that I actually have that musical ability, but I feel like I could if I had GarageBand.
Well, you might end up getting that ability from playing it.
I know that's what it empowers you. These apps empower you. They make you think you can do a lot of things. So there are a lot of great reading apps out there as well. I have it called Letters and Words on here, but it's a lot of reading skills. Super Y has been one that has been a lot of fun for both my son and for Jalen, learning how to read. And Licking Letters, which is down here at the bottom, is another one that, gosh, it just has been so much fun. The frog goes out and snaps the letters out of the air with his long tongue, and then there's all kinds of games. After you spell the word, you get rewarded with a little mini game, and then when you get done with that, you earn stickers or something. So there's a lot of reward in all of these apps. A lot of times you earn stickers or you earn stars and that sort of thing, and it's very motivating for learners. I do have some math apps. Math is not my strong point. You can tell reading is. But I do have some good math ones that I've used. I was so excited when I saw my son doing addition and subtraction problems using Dynomath. He's 5, and he was doing 10 minus 7 and counting out how many dinosaurs had been taken away and coming up with the right answer, and I was just thrilled with that. McGraw-Hill has a huge suite of apps, and some are, a lot of them are math focused. There is one that's language arts focused. They were free for a little bit. The math ones were free during National Math Month, which I think was April. Squeeze is one of my son's favorites, where it just has an octopus with one arm on each side, and you have to guess if the number is higher or lower, and the arms move as you go along, and you just find the right number on the number line. So there's lots of fun math apps out there. If you're familiar with Fruit Ninja, this is Math Ninja, and helps you practice your math skills to defend against a hungry tomato. So a lot of fun. Makes it very engaging to learn. My son is a big science nut, so I have lots of science apps. And some of these I've seen demonstrated at workshops. Solar Walk it says visually stunning, and it truly is visually stunning. And for $2.99, it's an amazing app. You can zoom in anywhere on the solar system. You can tilt and twist the planets. You can find out information in a sidebar about the planets. You can see the satellites that are orbiting the Earth currently. It is a very cool app. I do have some kids solar system apps as well. Solar System HD, this is the one that my son just picked up this morning while he was waiting for me to get ready. He did this one while he was getting ready. He answers questions about different planets, and yes, half the time he does guess, but he loves earning the stickers when he guesses correctly. There are lots of animal apps out there. Zoo Books, I think this one was just announced, I think last week, possibly. It's called Zoo Who, and it's by Zoo Books. It comes with the rainforest habitat, but you can purchase additional habitats for it as well. That's one of the things you do kind of need to be careful with. There are a lot of times in-app purchases. So even if the main app itself is free, to get a good amount of content you may have to purchase. For example, even the ebooks are like that. The Kindle app is free, but to get an ebook, a lot of times you're going to have to purchase within.
Yeah, I was noticing
so
the pricing that I was noticing the pricing you have on a lot of these, and I know that can be a just issue for not just someone working in a school or a library, but just personally, that the apps, oh, they're so cheap, but they add up. Sometimes you don't think about it. That $1.99 can really, you do a lot of those.
They do.
But there's so many on here that I'm noticing that say they're free.
Yes,
and
awesome. A lot of times the free ones will be, sometimes they have a light version, which is a free version, and a lot of times that will be enough. You don't need the whole version. For example, there is a Shakespeare app on here that there is a free version, and then there's the pro version, which is $9.99, which seems awfully outrageous to me for an app. So you know, try the free version before you necessarily go full for the paid versions. I try to focus on apps that are between free and $1.99. If I have to get above $1.99, it better be a darn good app, in my opinion. Which explains why I didn't pay the $4.99 for GarageBand. But the thing you do have to be careful with the light version sometimes is the ads that are in it, because that is a lot of the times why it is a light version. Sometimes it's a light version because it has limited function compared to the full version, but the other reason could be because of ads. And even like last night when I was doing one of the light versions with one of my sons, the ads weren't necessarily inappropriate, but it was stuff that he didn't care about hotels, that kind of thing. They weren't necessarily even ads that were targeted at kids, which I guess is a good thing, because then he didn't want to click on them. But so you have to be careful of those ads. Just going to show you the games page for the last, because of course that's fun. I do have 2 different games pages, but I don't think they really make much sense how I've divided them. I divided them into strategy and puzzle. And so there's a lot of good apps out there that make you think as you play. Rush Hour, if you're familiar with that classic game, they have an app for that. Geared is another one that's really popular, where you have to get the gears in just the right place to get them to turn. Lots of physics games that take advantage of the accelerometer in the iPod and the iPad and the iPhone. Solitaire chess is one that I've passed on to our chess club here at school too. It's like solitaire, but it uses the rules of chess, so it really gets them thinking, not just a mindless game. But there are lots of puzzle games too, and some of them are sort of mindless. Sneezies and Angry Birds and all of those kinds of fun games. Cut the Rope, which are, sometimes they kind of make you think about physics. You could make an argument that they're educational, but they're a lot of fun as well. So everything that you would want to look at is on this website here. I did not put in links to the iTunes store, but I tried to make sure that all of the titles are exactly the way that you would find them in the iTunes store, as well as the picture, because after doing this for a long time, I have found that it's very helpful to have the picture of the app. So unless they've updated their app picture, that should be the correct one. iPod apps can cost different than iPad apps, so that's another reason why some of these prices are a little bit varied. But again, the iOS devices, I have a little bit of a bias to, so you're not necessarily going to find a lot of these on the Android store. Although I did just hear that Plants vs. Zombies was just released for Android, and it's free right now for Android devices. So
yes, everybody was talking about that online yesterday in the Amazon store.
Yes, yes. Well, and that's pretty much what I have. Does anybody have any questions? Nobody really asked anything.
Yeah, nobody asked any during the session yet. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, you can type them into the questions section of your GoToWebinar interface. If you have a microphone, I can unmute you. Just let me know in there, and I'll do that, and you can ask your question that way. I was noticing, Sarah, as you're going through some of those applications for the books, that a lot of it reminded me a lot of story time activities that you would do, but it's on the device instead of you just doing it there with them. So it's kind of nice that they seem to be very similar to that kind of a thing.
Yes, I think especially a lot of the interactive books, and
yes,
maybe it's the interactive books that I hear about from the people that I follow, but a lot of the interactive book developers have really taken a good amount of time with their apps, making them more than just a a touch and swipe sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Magic School Bus, I can't wait until they come out with more of those. My son loves Magic School Bus, and their book is Oceans. And even the free version of this one, I thought, oh, I am not paying $7.99 for an app. But the free and even after the free version, I thought, ooh, that doesn't seem very good. But then I saw a video of everything that it does, and it's just amazing. I mean, it has built-in videos of sharks and animals. It has you move the animals the way the animals swim through the ocean. It has different habitats to explore. So some of the book apps in particular are really, really well done.
We do have a couple of questions now. Let's see here. Jan Sears, I see you had your hand raised. Do you have a microphone that you'd like to use to ask your question?
Yeah, I typed my question in, but I can ask it. I'm just trying to think through how I could use this in the library. Would you recommend buying iPads and then getting the apps and just let children use them in the library? What would you suggest?
I think that would be the way to go. I did that for my school library this year. I did purchase one iPad for our school library. And for now, if it gets checked out, it's only going to get checked out by teachers. But otherwise, I'm going to leave it in the library for students to explore ebooks on and the educational apps on it. And if you're going to do that sort of thing, you may look into the volume purchase program from Apple. It's not perfect yet, but you may want to go ahead and look into that, because if you end up purchasing more iPads or iPods, whatever, or a combination thereof, then you may want to take advantage of the volume purchase program too, which ultimately gets you apps cheaper. It can be kind of a pain sometimes because you have to go through certain links and certain accounts, and syncing it can kind of be a pain, but it gets the apps cheaper. So.
You just Google Apple. And
yeah, I have a link to the volume purchase program in the, I think it's in the resources section here.
Okay.
Let's see. Yep, it's right here. On the resources page, there's a link to the volume purchase program.
Okay.
It tells you about it, and then there's the actual volume purchase store.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple other questions that came through on the chat. Jolene has a question about, she's a newbie question. Let's see, I'm new to iPad and overwhelmed by the amount of apps I have on my desktop. Is there a way to create folders for the apps to basically, I guess, organize the ones you already have?
Yes, there are. And that is one of those things that I didn't know for a while, and I was in the same boat. I thought, gosh, these are not organized. And then I went to a workshop, and it's so easy. You actually just, let's say you have a couple of books that you want to put together, your interactive books. If you hold down on the app and they start to shake, like you would when you're going to move them around or delete them, if you drag one of the books on top of the other, it will create a folder. And you can rename that folder. So like I have an interactive books folder. I actually have 3 interactive books folders. But you can rename it to whatever you want, and then you can drag, I think it's up to 16 apps in one folder. And it has helped me get a whole lot more organized on my iPad.
Great. Sounds very easy. Yes, she's wonderful. Thank you so much. And another question
one
from
of those tips you don't know about.
yeah, from Carrie. Do you have any recommendations for apps for the first time you introduce students of different ages to an iPad? Like, what would be like a good first impression type app?
Well, I would probably go with an interactive book. I think a lot of the interactive books are very intuitive because they use the swipe feature, most of them, to turn the page and then to touch on something and make it move, I think is pretty intuitive. And so it depends on what age group you are looking at, but I think you could pick one of the interactive books and probably get a good idea. The Toy Story Disney interactive book is very well done, and that is free. So that would be a good one to do. Let me think. What other ones are free? Well, and Bartleby. I know that one's a little bit harder with the puzzles and whatnot, but that is free right now. And Velveteen Rabbit is another free one. It's a lot more basic, a lot more simple. So if you don't want to overwhelm them with what all you can do, the Velveteen Rabbit might be a good one because they can just tilt it and they can see the stocking swing, or they can touch the ball and see it roll across the screen. And it'll read the story to them as well. So I would probably recommend an interactive book to start off with.
Yeah, it's something they recognize to start with, yeah.
Yep. But, you know, again, depending on the age, you could also pick one of the letters and words, I think, are pretty good games to start students off with, too. Oh, another one that might be good is Feed Me, and I can't remember. There is a free version. Yep, that one's free to start off with. You can buy additional content for it. And Cookie Doodle, but Cookie Doodle is 99 cents, but it's still a whole lot of fun. Those are both ones where they would drag and drop sort of things. Feed Me has a lot of good directions built into it. And then Cookie Doodle, Candy Doodle, Cake Doodle, the kids follow recipes to create their own treats. And it tells them what to do as they go along, like shake it to stir the batter and that sort of thing.
Okay, cool. Another question, if you don't have an iPad but a laptop, can you make use of these apps? Well, this whole session and these particular things are specific to iPads, but do you know of things that are, you know, similar but for someone who has a netbook or a tablet or a laptop?
Your laptop, you're probably, if you're going to be on a netbook or a laptop, you're probably going to be doing websites. And most of these apps are not necessarily developed as websites right now. So if you're just using a netbook or a laptop, you're probably not going to be able to take advantage of these apps. Most of the apps that I have talked about can be used on any iPod, any iPhone, or any iPad. Some of them might not work if they were developed specifically for the iPad. Some of them might not work on an iPod or an iPhone. But most of the time they work on both an iPhone or an iPad. Like I said with the Android, devices, the Android tablets, the Android phones. A lot of these apps just are not available on the Android market yet. Some of them are getting there. Like we talked about, Plants vs. Zombies just came out yesterday for the Android market. And then that one is a game online as well, but most of the ones that you're going to find online are going to be on websites and are going to be game sort of things. You're not going to find a lot of these apps online to be used on a regular computer.
Okay, great. Looks like we haven't had any other questions come in just yet, and we are about 5 minutes after 11, which is our official stop time.
Yes.
But if anybody doesn't see anything else right now, I think we will wrap up the session today. Of course, you can always contact Sarah with more questions you have afterwards.
Absolutely. And then my contact information is on that website as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right on the page there. Yeah, and like I said, we'll have a link to, pretty easy URL up there, careproject.wikispaces.com, but we'll link to it from our recording page as well.
Excellent.
So, got a few things coming through on the questions.
Oh.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. Yes, this was very, very interesting, very cool. I've seen lots of things that even if I'm not working in a school or library, I might just get for fun.
Absolutely.
And I know you were used to thinking about a lot of these things on the iPad, which is large, but a lot of these will also work on the smaller iTouch as well if you have the smaller handheld device as well.
Yes, they will. Most of them will. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Let me switch here. Okay, I'm going to steal back control. And okay, so we are going to wrap up for today. We have run a little over, but that's all right. So thank you very much, Sarah, and for everyone for attending. This was a great session, as usual. And the session was recorded, so later today, maybe tomorrow, I'll be posted up with the website information and everything for you. We hope you will join us next week where Sarah will actually be back again. We've got you for 2 weeks in a row. Huh?
You're going to get sick of me.
No. These are great topics, yeah. And we're talking about doing book talks using Google Lit Trips and GarageBand that you were just mentioning today for your kids and adults at your library. So hopefully you'll join us next week. You can register for that on our website, and we will see hopefully some of you, and definitely you, Sarah, next Wednesday for Encompass Live. So thank you very much for attending, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.